Death Battle are running it back with the latest episode, Master Chief vs. Doomslayer. This episode is a rematch of an episode from Season 1, Episode 18 of the series, and is being redone for Episode 195. So it has been a minute since we've seen this. So much so that Master Chief has had an entire Halo trilogy happen, and Doom has had an entire Doom reboot that has completely reimagined the entire character. And notably, this episode was voted upon. During the Death Battle Kickstarter, one of the stretch goals was an episode would have a rematch. And then we had a small selection, smaller than most people were expecting, only featuring 10 options, most of which were early episodes. Those being the Ninja Turtle Battle Royale, Mario vs. Sonic, Master Chief vs. Doom Guy, Zelda vs. Peach, Terminator vs. Robocop, Gara vs. Toph, Yang vs. Tifa, Mewtwo vs. Shadow, Tracer vs. Skype, and Ben 10 vs. Green Lantern, which actually we'll get back to that by the end of this episode. But I've said my piece in a previous episode whenever I covered the Death Battle Kickstarter. I gave my 2 cents on each of them, and as I said in that video, my main choice was Master Chief vs. Doom Guy. Whenever I look at an episode deserving a rematch or re-examination, I think of 2 reasons for a rematch. Has the conversation changed around the matchup, and can the previous episode be improved upon? So the second one is pretty obvious. It was the 18th episode of the series. Ben was still animating it in an editing software. You can clearly improve upon research and characterization and animation, because that was back whenever it was a very small production, and now Death Battle is a stupidly big production. And has the conversation changed? The conversation around Master Chief vs. Doom Guy has completely changed. Again, they've had like an entire decade of new stuff to go over, especially for the Doom Guy. But yeah, so what did I think of the episode? I thought it was very cool. There's definitely some clunkiness around some parts of it, and one part that is gonna age poorly whenever we look at this down the line, but whatever. But as someone who played Halo a bunch back in the day, I played a lot of Halo 3 and a fair amount of Halo Reach. And I think I played a good amount of Halo 4, a little bit of Halo 5, and I haven't played much of Halo Infinite. I didn't beat the campaign, but what I played of that campaign, I enjoyed thoroughly. So I definitely consider myself more of a Halo fan than a Doom fan, especially since in the interim between the last 2 episodes, because it's on Game Pass, I decided to give Doom 2016 another shot, because I gave it a shot a couple times, and I don't find that game very fun. It's just, and a part of it might be just like playing it on controller is not very fun, but that I shouldn't have to play mouse and keyboard for a single player game, I think. I don't know. It's just not, like, it just kind of doesn't work. At the very least, I played like the first level of Eternal after the fact, and like it at least starts way better. Just giving you like an actual weapon as opposed to the shitty pistol that you get at the start of Doom 1. But yeah, it was just not a huge fan of that Doom 2016, especially because it doesn't really end at all. But people do like that Doom game, and now we have new stuff to examine for these characters. So let's get into it with Master Chief. So a lot of the stuff that's brought up in this Master Chief stuff, as someone who has been a Halo fan since Halo 3 essentially, which was 18 years ago around, Halo was like a big thing, especially at that time. I was very into Halo, was playing a lot. I read at least the first book, so a lot of the stuff that's been said I was aware of, and it's not surprising. But it's always nice to talk about Chief and all the cool stuff that happens in the Halo series. Though a lot of like the more esoteric stuff was reserved for black boxes, like the didact stuff, because being able to digitize yourself is not the most relevant thing. It's weird that they saved Cortana till right at the end, but I think they were just, covering all of like the Chief stuff, and then like they needed to bring her up, even though she is probably the most important thing Chief has. Like that's most of his character is centered around Cortana. And maybe it's just because I played Halo 3 first, and you spend a lot of that game just looking for Cortana. And then Halo 4 is Cortana dying, and then you have this very nice scene at the end where she has to like go die, and then she doesn't die in Halo 5, and Halo 5 is a bit of a mess narratively. But yeah, we got a lot of just cool, fun stuff to talk about with Halo. I do appreciate that they like use like some of like the in-game stuff, like flipping the elephant, because I kind of forgot about the elephant. It was a fun idea for a vehicle. It wasn't useful in the slightest. I remember you always had to try and make it useful in like custom maps. Not too much to say, just outside of what was said. Chief is cool. Like I knew everything that happened. I'm aware of Master Chief. Who I wasn't as aware of though was the Doomslayer. Like I said, I've only played 2016 Doom. I wasn't a child when Doom was shareware and everyone was that was the only thing that you could play. And because I then really started playing video games a lot in the mid to late 2000s, there were better options if you wanted to play an FPS than Doom, or you couldn't look up or down. So never really got into Doom, and then whenever I did didn't really enjoy the reboot that much. It was just kind of frustrating. It is weird how they transitioned from just kind of being a guy with a bunch of guns who fights demons to some kind of weird super gladiator from space that is immortal. Like Eternal is changed so much about that series. It feels. I think it's because like from what I have played and heard, it's pretty much that 2016 Doom introduced a bunch of like weird stuff, and then Eternal expanded on that heavily. So we'll see what happens with Doom the Dark Ages, because that comes out pretty soon. One thing I do appreciate with this is that we didn't delve into any of the nonsense lore around Doom. We just measured the big kabooms that he can make, because delving into that is always iffy, especially whenever it's a video game character. Like we saw that with Kratos vs. Astra. All the Kratos analyzation just feels off whenever it's like, oh, he's faster than Helios, and it's like, yeah, Helios is running at a slight jog here, not fucking quintuple times light speed. Yeah, it always feels awkward. But mostly because it's not really important here, so you don't need to. And we just measure how big kabooms go. And it's weird that, again, because I didn't play Eternal, I played the start of Eternal, so I never got to like the later stuff. And I definitely didn't play a DLC, because Game Pass doesn't have that. I would have to just buy the game, which I don't feel like doing right now. That Vega is God? That seems like a hell of a retcon. Also, I think Samuel Hayden, who's like the kind of villain of the first game, I don't know, he's just kind of, nothing really happened in that first game, goddamn. But he's like the guy you talk to the whole time, is actually an angel of some kind. Eternal definitely changed a lot. One thing it definitely changed for the better is Doomslayer's look, because the first one he is just a suit of armor, but then they kind of took some of the armor off and you can see his face now. Much better. It seems hard to like analyze someone like the Doomslayer just because he's not much of a character. He is a conduit for supreme violence. The character that we have, especially from the two Slayer games, or at least the first one, is that he really, really, really wants to kill a bunch of demons. So anything that lets him kill lots of demons, he will do. I don't know if that changes much in Eternal. I think it goes over enough, though, that you kind of get the idea. But let's move on to the fight. Starting with the voices, which there's actually more than two characters in this one. Master Chief is voiced by Philip Sacramento, who has been on Death Battle several times before. He was Yoda, Akuma, Aizen, and the Lich King. All pretty good. I did like him as the Lich King. He was pretty good as Aizen. Did a really good Yoda as well. Yeah, he does a good job as Chief. Though there's an issue I have, but I'll bring it up whenever I get to the final character here. Cortana is heard during this, and is voiced by Kira Buckland, who has been on Death Battle several times, all the way back to Season 2, because she was Toph Beifong, and she was also Raven and Twilight Sparkle in the episode where they fought. And then she brought it back as Raven when she fought Phoenix. So she's a very prolific voice actor, especially online, where she got her start, and then in various big name games like 2B in Nier Automata, or Jolene in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and just a ton of stuff really. But she does a really good Cortana, I feel. Gets across the vibe of Cortana very well. I like it. I like it a lot. There's one part that feels a little awkward, and I don't know if it was just like edited weird or just they read it off early in the fight, but overall, I think she does a great job. Vega, Doomslayer's AI pal, is voiced by Yang Yi, who has been on Death Battle a couple times before. Also, he was the voice of Homelander in both the 7 Battle Royale and Omni-Man vs. Homelander, and was the voice of Sanji in Sanji vs. Rock Lee. He is also a notable voice actor, most famously or perhaps infamously the current English dub voice of Kiryu in the Like a Dragon series. And very fun is that he's also the English dub voice of Enrico Pucci in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which means we have both Pucci and Jolene in this episode on opposite sides. He does a very good job as Vega, I feel, especially because I just played Doom, so I know what Vega sounds like. So I think he does a really good job. And I have a thing to say about, not in the way you might think, but we also have Gianni Montalbano voicing the Doomslayer, who he's been in many episodes of Death Battle. He's a very prolific online voice actor. He was Lex Luthor both times he was on the show. Sweet Tooth, Nathan Drake, Batman, Shao Kahn, and Satoru Gojo. He's also been in several games as well. His most notable one is probably Gabriel and Ultra Kill. But one thing I have to say, he does a good job as Doomslayer, but I have an issue with the preview for this fight that they did on cast and was the trailer for it. Doomslayer says one thing this fight, and they play it during the preview. They shouldn't, especially since that line happens right at the end of the fight. They really just shouldn't have done that. Also, the line that they use for Chief, I think it clearly wasn't finished yet, because it's just the line read. And it's a good line read, but it needed like effects on it to make it sound more like Chief, because he's in a fucking helmet, which in the episode it does sound good. It just didn't sound good in the preview. It's weird. That the preview was not ideal, I think. So now what about something else to listen to? Let's talk about the music. The track for this fight is Halo to Hell by Brandon Yates, featuring Matt Burnell, David Levy, and the Death Battle Fan Choir. So this is a cool song that I enjoy. It mixes parts of both Halo and Doom soundtracks, especially the remake Dooms, which had a lot of heavy metal stuff by Mick Gordon. It is cool, and I do like it. I listened to it back there. It's quite good. I enjoy it a lot. I don't like the name. Halo to Hell, it doesn't sound cool. It just kind of is stupid. It's not a good one. It's on the level of like Diabolical Invincible Me to me. It's just like you're just kind of slapping words together and it doesn't sound good. I wanted it to be called Rip and Tear Me Away, because you have Rip and Tear from Doom and Blow Me Away from Halo 2. I think that would have been a good name, and it still would have worked for here. And according to the wiki here, there's like part of Blow Me Away in the song. I would have to listen back to it to hear it. This is a cool song, and those featurings that we had, there's nothing here on Matt Burnell, unfortunately. The Death Battle Fan Choir are back. Probably not the exact same one as last time they had them, but it is the first time they've had the fan choir since Skyrim vs. Dark Souls. Very cool. They mostly probably had to do chants for Halo stuff. And David Levy is a notable add here. He used to work with Rooster Teeth on a lot of their stuff, but notably was one of the composers involved with Doom Eternal. So if you're going to get anyone to help produce a song for a Doom fight, guy that worked on the games is a good shout. And speaking of the fight, let's get into it. So a notable thing that is done in this fight is that it's actually kind of split into two with two animators. The first half of the fight is animated by SXR123, who is an animator that has worked on several fights in the past of Death Battle, and the second half of the fight, when they go to hell, is done by Devil Artemis. Maybe just because I knew it going into it, but it is very clear that they are two separate animation styles being done, even though they're both 3D. And they both are good and have their good elements to it. I enjoy like the little flourishes all over the place. I love that part at the start where Chief throws the grenades and one of them manages to get through the bullet fire. Because you have to at least have one instance where it's like, Chief is lucky. That is a major part of character. And also, Chief is creative, as seen whenever he's fighting with the bird shot and he uses the grenade to launch himself forward to get an attack. He does a lot of cool stuff. There is the issue that seems to come up with the last couple 3D fights though, where one character just seemingly does not care. Like one character is kind of like fighting and taking hits and doing stuff around it, and then the other character is just kind of, they get hit and then they're like, they just no-sell it a little bit. It's not as bad as Krios vs. Asura, but there's a little bit of it here. One fun thing this episode does, though, is a lot of little cameos. Very notably, at 3 separate occasions, we see the King, Halo 3 Rat. He's spotted pretty much beginning, middle, and end of the fight, which I didn't notice the first time, but then at one point I was like, yo, it's fucking Halo 3 Rat. That's good. Also, we see on the forklift that Chief kicks at the Doomslayer, there's an amiibo of Isabel from Animal Crossing, which she got brought up a couple times during this, but it's fun. That's a good cameo. And then during the team up in Hell, there is they fight a Revenant, I think. I can't remember what that is called, who has trumpets instead of guns, because that is the Doot Demon. It's fun. I like it. Those are good ones. Actually, now I think about it, both segments end with an FPS section, which is very fun, because these are both FPS characters. That's kind of the reason they're fighting. The first one, before they go to Hell, we have Doomslayer, and he's getting slashed by the energy sword, and then he gets shot in the head. It is very good. He gets shot with the pistol, and then headbutts him. It's very nice. Yeah, whenever they actually end up in Hell, we do get a really fun sequence where they stop fighting each other because they're surrounded by demons, so they fight demons. One issue I have during that, and I just would have done it differently, is mostly because it's a little hard to read until like the second or third viewing I had. Whenever Chief is fighting and he fights the Doot Demon, he sticks a grenade in his mouth and he tosses him and he flies and then he explodes. That's all good. I would have made that a plasma grenade, like a sticky, just because it makes him much clearer that he had a grenade in his mouth, because I thought that was a little hard to see. You know, after that, we get Cortana just showing her clear superiority over Vega, which is nice. Finish the fight. We get honestly, everything after this, up until a point, is like super fucking dope. He turns invisible, tries shooting the head, grabs the hand, looks awesome. He flies away, Doom guy shoots a rocket, runs, catches the rocket, and tosses it back. Sick as fuck. Though I do have a slight issue with that, mostly just, I feel like it holds too much on like him after he's thrown the rocket, or at least like the follow through on it's not ideal to me. I say this as like not an animator. I say this as someone who's watched a lot of Vizio essays, so I know more, but not really. I just have seen a bunch of stuff. I would have just cut earlier there, I think, and not held on it, or like moved the camera more. It's hard to say. I know a little bit about a lot of things, which is enough to criticize everyone, but not really. I don't know anything. And then we get the fucking BFG versus Spartan laser. Looks dope. Also, Spawn and Ghost Rider in the back there, just chilling. It's very noticeable when you point it out, but also you can see the bike. Like, it is a flaming bike in the background. And then after that, we get the sick Halo 2 pose, and then we get to the kill, which a lot of people have had some opinions about recently, and as do I. So he does the pose, he gets hit with a grappling hook, gets pulled in, slice, snap, stab, shock, explode, head on spike. See, so I have several issues with this kill. Not what happened, because I mean it's Doom guy. He was gonna do a glory kill. Also, this is when he speaks for the first time. There actually was a couple of grunts earlier, but this is when he says rip and tear, which shouldn't have been in that goddamn preview. It would have been cooler to hear him say it, because we were expecting the whole fight now, which is not going to affect people in the future, but affects us now, which is kind of the point of this. So issues I have with this kill? To me, it does kind of feel like the episode kind of decides this fight's been going on for 3 minutes. We just gotta, Doom guy's gotta kill him. Master Chief just has to lose an eye. Like, it feels very sudden, where it's just like, nah, episode has to wrap up now. And then the actual kill, it happens. Again, it's in first person, which is neat. It does kind of mess up, like, kind of clarity on things. Because I feel like the timing on certain things is off. Sometimes it holds on stuff I feel it shouldn't hold on, and then it just kind of breezes past things it should have held on. I think there should have been essentially like hit stop whenever Chief was getting his arms cut off. Like, it held on those a little bit more, and not as much on, like, you know, Chief staring at the sword for... It is like fractions of a second, but I just think it would hit a little harder. And the actual, like, actions that happen, I think the main one is, like, if you just took out the neck snap, this kill would be a lot better, because when he does the neck snap and then still stabs him and shocks him, it feels like gratuitous overkill. Whereas if he didn't snap him, it would still be gratuitous overkill, but wouldn't feel as bad, I think, because that's the killing blow. Because after that, he's just like, he's dead, you fucking snap his neck. That's the main issue. I think there's a good kill there that has a lot of little problems. But overall, good fight, I enjoyed it. As a result, this was expected. Master Chief probably beat Doom Guy back in 2012 when this episode first came out. Unfortunately, in 2025, after several new Doom games that have made him a demigod, essentially, a little more difficult to convincingly win when you're Yellow Man. Not really, again, not much to say. This argument was, everyone definitely assumed, which is a part of the reason why some people didn't really want this as the rematch, just because the argument has changed, yes. But it has gone from Chief probably wins to Chief 100% loses every goddamn time. Which is a shame, because I think people like Master Chief more than they like the Doom Guy. There's more of a character with Chief, or at least I like Chief better. He wasn't gonna win, but I believed in him the whole time. So, as for ranking, this one is definitely better than Kratos vs. Asura. So, I guess it goes second, because I do think Ghost Rider Spawn is still the best one that's come out this year. Even though that has put Sugar Ray vs. Mahito at the bottom, this is relative to each other and personal to me. So, none of these episodes have been bad. There's not been a single bad episode since Death Battle has gone independent, I think. There's been issues with episodes, but nothing outright bad. Let's hope they keep that up with next time, which is...
My drill is the drill that creates the heavens!
Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
Gurren Lagann versus White Lantern. Simon the Digger versus Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern. So this is one that has been requested for years. Definitely since Bantam vs. Green Lantern. See, we're bringing it back. Mostly because this is one that people just want to see Green Lantern die, so they're putting up against someone that they think is unbeatable. This argument, I have no goddamn clue. However, I know nothing about Kyle Rayner Green Lantern because he's not been in much stuff, even though he was Green Lantern for like 10 to 15 years before they brought back the rest of the Green Lanterns. And I do very much like Simon the Digger. I very much like Gurren Lagann. I do need to go watch the movies, though. I've never got around to watching those. It'll be super interesting to see. But yeah, this will be a cool one. This will be exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to it. We get to learn about Kyle Rayner. We get to talk about Gurren Lagann. It'll be great. Hopefully the animation lives up to what we all expect. Because Gurren Lagann can get so big it stands on galaxies. Hopefully we're not just setting ourselves up for disappointment. But we'll find out in a couple of weeks. Until then, see ya.